Welcome back to the third part of this lesson, which I've called the investigation because it concludes the story with the police investigation of what happened. So here were the questions I left you with in the last video, and quickly going through the answers to that. She practices speaking to Sam, the shopkeeper, or the grocer, which any one of those you put are correct. She goes to the grocery shop. She buys cheesecake for dessert. She pretends to find her husband dead when she gets home. Or you could, if you've put something like she pretends everything's normal, then that would be fine as well. And then she calls the police to report a murder at the end. So in this final bit, the police are going to come. I want you to have a bit of a prediction. Based on the title, what we've read so far, what do you think might happen next? So at least 2 sentences predicting what the police might do or what she might do in the next part of the story. So you can pause there. And then we'll go on for the final part of the story. The car came very quickly, and when she opened the front door, 2 policemen walked in. She knew them both. She knew nearly all the men at that precinct, and she fell right into a chair, then went over to join the other one, who was called O'Malley, kneeling by the body. "Is he dead?" she cried. "I'm afraid he is. What happened?" Briefly, she told her story about going out to the grocer and coming back to find him on the floor. While she was crying and talking, Noonan discovered a small patch of congealed blood on the dead man's head. He showed it to O'Malley, who got up at once and hurried to the phone. Soon, other men began to come into the house. First a doctor, then 2 detectives, one of whom she knew by name. Later, a police photographer arrived and took pictures, and a man who knew about fingerprints. There was a great deal of whispering and muttering beside the corpse, and the detectives kept asking her a lot of questions, but they always treated her kindly. She knew the story again, this time right from the beginning. She told the story again, this time right from the beginning, when Patrick had come in, and she was sewing, and he was tired, so tired he hadn't wanted to go out for supper. She told how she'd put the meat in the oven, it's there now cooking, and how she'd slipped out to the grocer for vegetables, and come back to find him lying on the floor. "Which grocer?" one of the detectives asked. She told him, and he turned and whispered something to the other detective, who immediately went outside into the street. In 15 minutes he was back with a page of notes, and there was more whispering, and through her sobbing she heard a few of the whispered phrases. Acted quite normal, very cheerful. Wanted to give him a good supper, peas, cheesecake. Impossible that she... After a while, the photographer and the doctor departed, and 2 other men came in and took the corpse away on a stretcher. Then the fingerprint man went away. The 2 detectives remained, and so did the 2 policemen. They were exceptionally nice to her, and Jack Noonan asked if she wouldn't rather go somewhere else, to her sister's house perhaps, or to his own wife, who would take care of her and put her up for the night. No, she said. She didn't feel she could move even a yard at the moment. Would they mind awfully if she stayed just where she was until she felt better? She didn't feel too good at the moment. She really didn't. Then hadn't she better lie down on the bed? Jack Noonan asked. No, she said. She'd like to stay right where she was, in this chair. A little later, perhaps, when she felt better, she would move. So they left her there while they went about their business, searching the house. Occasionally, one of the detectives asked her another question. Sometimes Jack Noonan spoke at her gently as he passed by. Her husband, he told her, had been killed by a blow on the back of the head administered with a heavy blunt instrument, almost certainly a large piece of metal. They were looking for the weapon. The murderer may have taken it with him, but on the other hand, he may have thrown it away or hidden it somewhere on the premises. It's the old story, he said. Get the weapon, and you've got the man. Later, one of the detectives came up and sat beside her. Did she know, he asked, of anything in the house that could have been used as a weapon? Would you mind having a look around to see if anything was missing? A very big spanner, for example, or a heavy metal vase? They didn't have a heavy metal vase, she said. Or a big spanner? She didn't think they had a big spanner, but there might be some things like that in the garage. The search went on. She knew that there were other policemen in the garden, all round the house. She could hear their footsteps on the gravel outside, and sometimes she saw a flash of a torch through a chink in the curtains. It began to get late. Nearly 9, she noticed by the clock on the mantel. The 4 men searching the room seemed to be growing weary, a trifle exasperated. Jack, she said, the next time Sergeant Noonan went by, would you mind giving me a drink? Sure, I'll give you a drink. You mean this whiskey? Yes, please, but just a small one. It might make me feel better. He handed her the glass. Why don't you have one yourself? She said. You must be awfully tired. Please do. You've been very good to me. Well, he answered, it's not strictly allowed, but I might take just a drop to keep me going. One by one the others came in and were persuaded to take a little nip of whisky. They stood around rather awkwardly with the drinks in their hands, uncomfortable in her presence, trying to say consoling things to her. Sergeant Noonan wandered into the kitchen, came out quickly and said, Look, Mrs. Maloney, you know that oven of yours is still on and the meat's still inside? Oh, dear me, she cried, so it is. Better turn it off for you, hadn't I? Will you do that, Jack? Thank you so much. When the sergeant returned the second time, she looked at him with her large, dark, tearful eyes. Jack Noonan, she said. Yes? Would you do me a small favour, you and these others? We can try, Mrs. Maloney. Well, she said, here you all are, and good friends of dear Patrick's too, and helping to catch the man who killed him. You must be terribly hungry by now, because it's long past your supper time, and I know Patrick would never forgive me, God bless his soul, if I allowed you to remain in this house without offering you decent hospitality. Why don't you eat up that lamb that's in the oven? It'll be cooked by now. Wouldn't dream of it, Sergeant Noonan said. Please, she begged, please eat it. Personally, I couldn't tough the thing, certainly not what's been in the house when he was here. It's all right for you. It'd be a favour to me if you could eat it up. Then you can go on with your work again afterwards. There was a good deal of hesitating among the 4 policemen, but they were clearly hungry, and in the end they were persuaded to go into the kitchen and help themselves. The woman stayed where she was, listening to them speaking among themselves, their voices thick and sloppy because their mouths were full of meat. Have some more, Charlie? No, better not finish it. She wants us to finish it. She said so. Be doing her a favour. Okay, then, give me some more. It's a hell of a big club the guy must have used to hit poor Patrick, one of them was saying. Doc says his skull was smashed all to pieces, just like from a sledgehammer. That's why it ought to be easy to find. Exactly what I say. Whoever done it, they're not going to be carrying a thing like that around with them no longer than they need. One of them belched. Personally, I think it's right here on the premises. Probably right under our noses. What do you think, Jack? And in the other room, Mary Maloney started to giggle. So there's the end of our story. And your final 5 questions there to answer. Obviously, this is the last video, so you'll have to pause to answer these questions, and then I'll go through the answers with you. So pause now and answer the questions. Okay, and let's have a look at the answers. So, what were the names of the first 2 policemen to come to the house? They were O'Malley and Noonan. 7 more people came to the house, a doctor, 2 detectives, a police photographer, a fingerprint man, and 2 stretcher carriers. One of the detectives goes out to question Sam the grocer. Mary cooks the murder weapon and feeds it to the policeman to get rid of the evidence. And what does Mary do at the end? When she realises she's got away with it, she starts to giggle. So that's it for this week, is your comprehension for this short story. And next week we're going to start working on how to discuss the way the writer has created the characters and situations along with our big question. So I hope you stay well until then, and goodbye.